I want to begin by saying something essential. I am here, and I'm not going away. For some of you, it may have seemed otherwise. Some I know have childishly celebrated. Some expressed concern about my well being. Others have thought that they have won, as if disappearing me from this case would be a service to Abby and Libby. The silence, the pause, the lack of activity. Some of you may have thought that my flame had gone out, that the years long campaigns of harassment had achieved their ultimate goal, and that this channel was essentially finished. But you are hearing my voice now. And in the months ahead, you will know that is not and was not the truth. See, the pause is over. My silence is broken. What you are witnessing is not a farewell, but a return. And so I want to speak out not only on what has happened, not only about the current state of Delphi, not only about the months and months of blatant harassment, but also about what lies ahead for me. And in all honesty, what doesn't. Because this is not merely about me, it's about us, our small community. It's about what we represent. And it's about the enduring search and demand for the truth that no campaign, however coordinated, might extinguish. Over these past months, something has become undeniable. And that is what I am facing is not simply a handful of random voices or merely the all too familiar unhinged prosecutorial voices that I have endured for years. Not just people who simply disagree with me or even the natural friction that comes with any emotion-packed public conversation. As unbelievable as it is organized. It was persistent, it was sinister, and it was coming from both directions, both defense and prosecution. And it carries all the fingerprints of coordination. Now, I know that you don't want to believe it. I've spent a long time reflecting on this, studying not only what was said by these people, but how it was all carried out, the strategy. And when you look very closely, a pattern emerges. Repetition, amplification, exaggeration, gang stalking. The same talking points carried across multiple accounts. The same techniques, classic PR campaign. The same distortions recycled in many different forms with a frequency and intensity that does not belong in any type of ordinary criticism, but to an obvious manipulative strategy. Anyone who has studied public relations or propaganda campaigns will recognize this very structure. A narrative is chosen, it is repeated until it feels like fact. And then it is reinforced by loudness, intensity, but not the truth. This is how doubt is manufactured, how credibility is chipped away at, and how communities are divided. And this is what has happened here. Now, I don't say this to cast myself as a victim, though the effects are real. And in truth, I certainly am a victim of this community. I say that because understanding this method is part of understanding the larger climate that surrounds not just this channel, but the entire Delphi case altogether. Delphi has been a whirlpool of confusion and doubt from the very beginning. Speculation, rumor, doubt, hate, intentional distortion. All of it creates a blanket of darkness that shrouds the truth. Intentional discord. If we step back and look at it clearly, it becomes almost clinical. It follows known tactics. Darvo, deny, attack, reverse, victim and offender. Mobbing or swarming, overwhelming one voice with a chorus, mimicking a false consensus. And gaslighting, insisting reality is other than what it is until you begin to question your own clarity and reality. These are not new. These techniques have been used throughout history in politics, in propaganda, and in smear campaigns. But when turned against an individual and when they are coordinated with numbers and persistence, the impact is real. For me, it has meant watching my community shrink down to nearly nothing, watching your trust in me erode, watching people I value turn completely away and embody the hate that the agents of chaos have projected. It meant carrying the burden of constant misrepresentation and harassment. It meant waking up each day to a symphony of noise and chaos designed to hide the truth, to misrepresent my intentions and discredit my work, and ultimately to dishearten me and my viewers and cause me to quit. But it has also meant something else to me: clarity. Because once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. Once you recognize this strategy, the effect begins to lose its hold. What once felt like chaos reveals itself as orchestration, planned, plain and simple. And orchestration, once identified, loses its power. This is where I stand now. The campaign is real, it is coordinated, and it has left its mark. But it has not succeeded in the way it was intended, and it won't ever, because I am still here, and I will continue to be here. I'm not going away in fear. All this has done is strengthen my understanding of what we are truly up against, both in the Delphi case and in the broader culture of disinformation and chaos surrounding other related crimes in general. You see, I am confident that this is a cult killing and that this chaos is carried out by agents working on behalf of the cult. It would be easy to dismiss the events of the past 5 months and the past 2.5 years, to be honest, as random internet noise or just trolling, as the gang stalkers have often tried to convey. A kind of harmless and subtle hostility that anyone online eventually faces. But that would be dishonest. It would be disingenuous. And it would be an underestimation of the seriousness and gravity of what has been occurring. What has happened to me is not just noise or trolling, and it was not organic. It was planned. It was orchestration. It was a campaign, coordinated, deliberate, and sustained, an effort by a group of people intent on silencing the truth teller. You don't sustain attacks day after day, month after month, and years on end from multiple individuals, anonymous accounts, across platforms and narratives without insight, planning, and intention. And you don't discredit someone methodically, week after week, year after year, unless you fear their voice and the message they carry. And that, I think, is the key. This was never about me personally. It was about undermining my work, silencing our conversation, intimidating those who demand truth, honesty, and integrity, and fracturing our community. I am simply the figurehead who the attackers could most easily cast their blows. The method is classic: Discredit, distort, defame. If the truth cannot be defeated, then flood the conversation with chaos and noise. If evidence cannot be erased, then bury it under chaos, rumors, and lies. If a voice cannot be silenced directly, then drown it out in contradictions and defamation until the audience grows weary and eventually turns away. Well, congratulations. It worked for now. You see, it's a strategy as old as propaganda itself. Black propaganda, classic narcissistic technique. And in our digital age, it has become easier than ever to accomplish this goal. A swarm of voices, gang stalking well-meaning people, coordinated, all repeating the same talking points, demonizing the truth teller, the independent thinker, creating the illusion of consensus where none truly exists. This is not just a personal story. It is a lesson in how narratives are manipulated. And once you recognize the pattern, you will see it everywhere and realize its extent. Because what has happened to me is what has happened in a larger sense to the entire community of Delphi. A storm has been conjured, a great edifice of fear erected, built on a foundation of lies, intimidation, and harassment. And in both cases, the goal is the same: to obscure the path, exhaust the truth seeker, and extinguish the flame. Delphi, as I've said before, is not merely a scene of a horrible crime. It's a complete labyrinth of lies, reflecting with an obscure glimmering of half-truths, appearing as a mosaic of shattered fragments, contradictions, lies, a grainy video, a few words of audio, endless rumors, shifting narratives, conflicting sketches, partial releases, leaks, lies, and drama. Each fragment is like a mile-high stone wall, turning us one way and then another, sometimes forward, sometimes backward, often running back into circles, ultimately completely blinding us. In this confusing labyrinth, voices echo within echo chambers. Some sincere, some misguided, some malicious, some confused, some seeking to clarify, others seeking to mislead. The echoes are so loud at times that they can feel like a deafening chorus. And yet, when you lean in closer, you realize that many of those voices are repeating the same narrative over and over and over. A great noise, amplified, controlled, and completely orchestrated. Does that sound familiar? It should, because it is the same exact tactic that is used against this channel. The same structure, but scaled differently and targeted directly. Flood the labyrinth with noise and distractions until the truth is completely obscured. Think of all the viewers who have left this channel over the years, after hours and hours of watching and participating in our discussions. And think of all the agents, of the agents of chaos who have infiltrated and then revealed themselves within our ranks. But hey, let us not forget, a labyrinth is not impenetrable. It is specifically designed to confuse, yes, but it also holds a clear center, an end goal, an ultimate destination. And that center in Delphi, in our work, in the very pursuit of truth itself, remains. To walk it requires something more than speed or agility. It requires patience, discipline, endurance, and tenacity. You might walk in circles. You may face dead ends. But if you keep walking and hold the light steady, You move closer and closer to the center, even when it doesn't feel like it. And that is what Delphi demands of all of us. That is what the truth demands of us. Not instant answers, not the thrill of constant speculation, but the quiet, steady persistence of those who will not quit. When I stepped back, I pondered, what would people think of this? Would people think this is defeat? Would my light be mistaken as completely extinguished? Many things like this cross my mind. But the truth is that sometimes protecting yourself requires absolute silence and the withholding of vital breath. Sometimes the most resilient act is not shouting louder into the wall until everyone is deafened, but letting the storm pass, letting events unfold, and reigniting the flame that lights the path with a steady hand that no one can defeat. See, what I have faced for nearly 3 years has been meant to defeat me, to break me, and to break you. But it hasn't. Instead, it's tempered me. It strengthened me. Fire refines. Pressure hardens. And now I'm not weaker, but stronger. Not quieter, but more clear than ever. And what I've seen in these months is that the very existence of such a campaign means that we are doing something that matters. Nobody wages a war against irrelevance. No one tries to silence a crazy man. And so this return is not a continuation of what was, but the beginning of something new, something sharper and more deliberate, more effective. I will not chase every rumor. I will not bend to every accusation, and I will not repeat every lie. I will not entertain you with constant speculation about the Delphi case. And I will not exhaust myself answering every distorted question and accusation that the agents of chaos have planted into this community. I will stand firm, will carry the flame, and I will move forward, and I am moving forward. Now, there's something I need to say directly as one human to another, and that is, you are essential in this story. Too often we think of online spaces as theaters of sorts, highly performative, entertainment for all intents and purposes, a circus. With only a few people on the stage, the rest watching. Some clap, some boo, some leave early, some leave in rage. But what has happened here shows us that this community is not just theater. This is not passive entertainment. Each of you is a part of the structure of this very real community. When the harassment unfolded, when the swarm took flight, something subtle was at stake. Not only whether I could withstand it, but whether you would allow it to define what the truth is. Because make no mistake, disinformation does not succeed because it is convincing. It succeeds because people allow it to circulate unchallenged. It succeeds because people grow weary of the drama and step back. It succeeds because bystanders decide that silence is easier than clarity and trust. You're not simply observers. You are guardians of the truth. You are participants in the shaping of what is real and what is false, what is just and what is unjust. When someone spreads a lie, challenge it. When someone distorts the truth, call it out. When you see coordinated harassment, do not feed it with attention. But neither turn away as though it doesn't exist. Witnessed it, note it, name it, call it out. Do not let the record be rewritten. History has shown us this lesson again and again. Propaganda does not need the majority to succeed. It only needs the silent middle, those who see and say nothing. And this has been an ongoing problem with Delphi. Too many lazy, content, wanting to be comfortable and entertained. The most dangerous thing is not the fanatic at the periphery, but the woeful indifference of the majority in the center. And that's why your role matters here. This channel is not simply mine, it belongs to you, to every single person who listens in good faith, who cares about Abby and Libby, who shares information responsibly, and who refuses to let the fog of noise overwhelm their brains. You are not passive observers. You are co-keepers of the truth. If I carry it forward, you shield it from the wind. If I speak truthfully, you amplify the truth above the noise. If I'm attacked, you stand firm, refusing to let the narrative be distorted by chaos agents. That is how we win against disinformation campaigns. Not through a single voice, but through many voices, refusing to be cowed, refusing to be bullied into silence. And so tonight, I place the responsibility where it belongs, with all of us, with me, but also with you. Because the truth is never the work of one man alone. It is the work of a community willing to carry the heavy burden together. When you watch and listen, when you hold the line, you're not just viewers, you are participants in the process. You are defenders of the flame. Let me be absolutely clear. Every view, every click, every comment given to the channels that harass, distort, and defame is fuel that keeps them going. Those are the currencies of this ecosystem. And when you hand them that currency, no matter how small, you pay for their campaign against me, against Abby and Libby, and against the ultimate truth about Delphi. I know some of you are curious. Some think, I'll just watch for 1 minute just to see what they're saying. But understand this, there is no neutral viewing. Do not go there. A single view is a number added to their tally. That number is converted into reach. That reach becomes credibility in the algorithm. And that credibility is then used to amplify their lies. The system is not complicated. Attention equals power. Deny them the attention, and their power diminishes. Feed them the attention, and their power multiplies. And so I ask you to reflect carefully. When you click on their videos, even out of curiosity, what side of the line are you actually standing on? Are you guarding the truth and demanding accountability? Or are you handing energy to the very forces trying to extinguish it? Because let's be honest, I cannot fight this fight alone. And I have been fighting largely alone. I cannot withstand attacks without your help. I might endure their attacks for a time, but I cannot neutralize them if those who believe in what I am doing simultaneously feed those trying to discredit me with their attention. It is a contradiction, and it harms our cause. This is where accountability begins, not only for the people running the smear campaigns, but for the viewers who allow it to flourish. And as you know, I have demanded accountability. If you watch them without calling them out, you strengthen their efforts. If you ignore the abuse they perpetrate and let it stand, you normalize it. And some of you have done so repeatedly. You have normalized it. If you treat the harassment as entertainment, as funny, or as just drama, you become complicit in the harm it causes. That may sound harsh, but it is the truth. Every time the audience fails to hold these actors accountable, the bullying is perpetuated. Every time silence wins, the disinformation grows louder. And every time you feed those channels with your attention and views, even hate views, you extend the life of the very machinery designed to dismantle our community. You have a choice to starve what is toxic or to sustain it, to treat it as background noise or to confront it for what it is. I don't say this to shame you, but to awaken you to the fact that you are not a passive observer here. You are an active participant. You hold the levers of power. If the majority of this community collectively refused to give these people the views and instead insisted on calling out this behavior as unacceptable, it would all immediately collapse. It cannot sustain itself without your energy. And accountability goes further than just withholding attention. It means speaking up. It means refusing to normalize the cruelty. It means naming what is happening, like harassment, smear campaigns, coordinated attacks, and cyberbullying. Not debate, not drama, abuse. We must stop treating it as if it were simply a part of internet or Delphi culture, something inevitable, something we must endure. No, there are lines. There are standards of decency, and when those lines are crossed, when organized campaigns target and dismantle good faith work, it's not just the internet. It is wholly unacceptable. And so I ask you tonight to help me draw that line. Don't give them your views. Don't interact in their chats. Don't comment on their videos. Don't argue with them in their spaces. Every second you spend there is oxygen to their fire. Let their rooms go dark. Let their words echo in the silence. Instead, hold them accountable in ways that matter. Report them when you see the harassment. Speak up with clarity when you see the lies. Support the work you value with your money and your attention. And starve the content that thrives on cruelty and harassment. Because this fight is not only about me, it is about the precedent that we set as a community. If coordinated campaigns succeed in silencing or distorting one voice, they will smother out others, and they have done so again and again, countless times before. Think about where all the other former creators are. If the audience rewards abusers with views and clicks, then abuse becomes the model. And it has become the model in Delphi. And if you simultaneously refuse to support the creators who are delivering the actual truth because you don't understand the so-called drama, then you relegate those creators to the annals of history. If you let this pass unchallenged, you build a culture in which cruelty is profitable and truth is punished. And that has been Delphi. And that I refuse to accept. So tonight I call on you directly. Choose carefully where you place your attention. Withhold it from those who sow chaos and lies and who refuse to be held accountable. Hold them accountable for their conduct, for their cruelty, for their lies and dishonesty, and for their willingness to weaponize information and platforms. And remember, every time you let it slide, every time you shrug and say, this is just the way it is, they care about Richard Allen or they care about Abby and Libby. You are not neutral. You are perpetuating the harm. Every time you call it what it is, every time you hold the line, you weaken it. And then lies. You keep this community alive, and the responsibility is heavy. But it's also empowering because the truth is the audience has always held the greatest power. And if you use it wisely, no campaign, no smear, no coordinated effort can withstand the collective refusal of a community to be manipulated. And you have been manipulated. When I first began this channel, I did not anticipate the extent to which these outside forces could shape the environment in which we operate. I did not expect that there would be a highly organized, deliberate campaign aimed at undermining both the work that I did and the community around it. And this campaign did not emerge spontaneously. It was coordinated, systemic, and precise. The people behind it understand the levers of power. They knew the system. They understood the vulnerabilities of creators and audiences and the way that platforms can be weaponized. And they've used it effectively. This is why I am speaking to you now about responsibility. Your responsibility as viewers, as participants in the ecosystem. Every choice you make, every decision to engage or abstain or to support carries consequences. It's not merely a philosophical principle, it's a practical reality that has measurable effects. When you interact with channels designed to spread falsehoods, distract, or attack others, you provide them with the energy they need to continue. Every second spent watching increases the reach of content intended to mislead, defame, or intimidate. Even if your intent is to analyze, to fact check, or to see what's being said, your engagement is interpreted as interest, and interest equates to power. So there is no neutrality. There's no safe curiosity when the content in question is the product of a coordinated harassment campaign. Every active engagement strengthens the enemy. Every pause to observe gives them fuel, and every share amplifies their reach. Conversely, every deliberate choice to refrain, every refusal to click, every decision to refrain from engagement weakens it. The power of these campaigns is not in their sophistication alone, but in the willingness of the audience to supply them with oxygen. And responsibility extends beyond mere avoidance. It also requires critical discernment. Recognize the methods these campaigns use. Multiple accounts, spreading the same narrative, repetition across platforms, manipulation of facts to create doubt, and personal attacks intended to provoke emotional responses. These are deliberate techniques designed to exploit curiosity, anger, and fear. The audience must be aware of these tactics because awareness alone transforms passive participation into active stewardship. Understanding how harassment operates allows you to consciously refuse to empower it. Every act of discernment, every careful decision not to engage is a step forward in disrupting the cycle. Active responsibility also involves holding the perpetrators accountable in ways that are effective and proportionate. For example, you have allowed these people to leak discovery. You have allowed these people to sabotage the defense, to frighten away our viewers, to go after our families, and to terrorize this community. You did not call it out immediately. Reporting harassment, documenting coordinated smear campaigns, speaking out against them, and alerting mods are all actions that you can take. Simply ignoring the content may prevent immediate engagement, but it does not neutralize the coordinated activity itself. Collective accountability is essential. When viewers act together to recognize, report, and resist abusive behavior, they lose their power. Harassment relies on anonymity and amplification. Visibility without consequence sustains it. Consequence without your engagement diminishes it. The audience has the ability to impose consequences, to create friction in this system, and to deny effectiveness to the manipulators. Now, another critical aspect of this responsibility is financial support for the work itself. Producing thoughtful, accurate, and responsible content on this case is resource intensive. It requires research, corroboration of facts, time, and altogether is ultimately resource intensive. Without direct audience support, responsible sharing, and financial contributions, no project, however well meaning, can maintain its independence or continuity. Supporting the work is not simply optional or altruistic, it is a necessary part of sustaining a platform that prioritizes truth and integrity over collusion, emotionalism, and sensationalism. Financial support allows for my continued ongoing research, the verification of sources, financial stability, and the ability to resist harassment without compromising standards. It is a direct and practical way the audience can ensure that a project remains viable and resilient, no matter the obstacles it may face. The moral dimension is equally significant. Every time a viewer engages with a harassing channel, every moment of passive observation, every interaction, the audience participates in perpetuating harm and disinformation. This harm is tangible. It diverts attention away from accurate content, like mine, and empowers abusive actors, like them, and it undermines the community's commitment to an ethical, civil discourse. And that is a pervasive problem with Delphi. Responsibility is not an abstract concept. It is concrete and actionable. It is measured by decisions made consistently, by conscious choice to refuse engagement with harmful channels and to support honest, constructive, and verified content. This is about the murders of two little girls. Each viewer has a stake, and with that stake comes the obligation to act. Accountability is strengthened when the audience operates collectively. Individual decisions matter, and their impact multiplies when reinforced by compassionate community norms. When multiple viewers refuse to interact, when they report harassment, share verified work, and financially support the creators that they believe in, they create a network of resilience. Harassment campaigns are designed to exploit gaps in your vigilance, lapses in your discernment, and passive, weak, and ignorant audiences. When the community is vigilant, deliberate, and conscientious, the effectiveness of these campaigns is dramatically reduced. The audience is the first line of defense, guardians of truth and clarity. You're not simply spectators, you are co-participants in this work, in sustaining integrity, in defending against manipulation, and ensuring that this work continues. To understand the practical consequences of audience behavior, I must examine the mechanisms through which harassment campaigns gain traction. These campaigns operate on a combination of loudness, repetition, and algorithmic and societal manipulation. Multiple accounts controlled by the same actors spread identical or similar messages across different platforms, different channels, creating the illusion of a consensus. I call this astroturfing. Repetition reinforces the message and it conditions the viewer to accept their narratives as plausible and real. The algorithms that govern digital platforms reward consistency, engagement, and attention. So every interaction, every view, comment, or share contributes to the metrics that amplify content. These numbers are not abstract. They translate directly into reach and into visibility. Consider, for example, the case of certain channels that have attempted to undermine my investigative work surrounding the Delphi murders. Their approach has been subtle, employing insinuation rather than outright falsehood, mixing factual fragments with misleading framing, and on and on and on. The objective is to create confusion, erode your trust, and redirect attention away from my verified research and truthful perspectives. When viewers click on these videos, the algorithm interprets this engagement as legitimacy. It doesn't evaluate intent. It doesn't measure skepticism. All it sees is that the content is being consumed, and that alone increases the probability that that content will appear in recommended feeds and searches. And a single viewer may feel that their action is negligible, but multiplied across hundreds or even thousands of viewers, the impact is substantial. In the end, you have a responsibility as a consumer, and I want you to think about that. The ethical dimension is clear. Consuming content designed to harass or misinform, even passively, contributes to harm. It amplifies the voices that are intentionally divisive, defamatory, and manipulative. And avoidance alone is insufficient. Viewers must also exercise critical thinking, recognize the tactics being employed, learn to see what you can't already see, to build novel neural pathways. Observe the patterns, call them out, identify emotionally manipulative people and content designed to provoke you into anger, fear, or curiosity. Understand that coordinated campaigns are structured to exploit cognitive biases, confirmation bias, curiosity gaps, and the compulsion to witness conflict. Awareness transforms potential complicity into intentional stewardship. When you act consciously, the power of these harassment campaigns is greatly diminished. You become an informed consumer, and each informed choice to abstain from harmful content constitutes a direct act of resistance. Supporting good work is another essential form of responsibility. Producing accurate, well-researched content requires time, technical infrastructure, and access to verified information and solid sources. You have no idea the number of hours required to do this work. Financial contributions from viewers are not merely supportive gestures, they are critical to our sustainability. Your donations allow me to maintain complete independence. Complete independence. To continue my meticulous research and to resist the pressures that might compromise the integrity of my work. Without your engagement, support, and visible and vocal protection, my channel is vulnerable to erosion by constant harassment campaigns. And harassment campaigns are designed to provoke instinctive responses. They exploit curiosity, outrage, emotions, and even quirky humor or personalities to draw the viewers in. In all, they play on your emotions and affection. Think of the channels I've been battling with and how you might love the cute host and the quirky personalities, and how you might admire what you think they embody. These personas are not developed by accident. Consider that the very architecture of these campaigns relies on emotional manipulation, period. The audience's role extends beyond mere resistance, though. It also encompasses affirmative support for ethical work. Participating in a community around verified research strengthens the entire ecosystem. Sharing accurate content, engaging in thoughtful discussions, and providing constructive feedback all reinforce the norms of integrity. And financial support enables us to maintain complete independence. It allows us to invest in time and equipment and resources used to conduct research without compromise. So, in summary, audience responsibility can be distilled into 4 behaviors: avoid engagement with manipulative channels, report and document harassment, support and consume verified ethical work, and provide financial and logistical support whenever possible for the channels that you believe in. Neglecting these areas allows the campaigns to operate unimpeded. Each failure represents a measurable increase in risk and harm. Conversely, deliberate adherence strengthens the work, protects the community, and reduces the effectiveness of these coordinated attacks. Remember, it's one person against dozens here. So I need you. Responsibility is cumulative. It requires vigilance, consistency, and intentionality. In other words, I truly do need you. And this is not theoretical. It has real consequences for the Delphi murders investigation and related research. Coordinated attacks have attempted to misdirect attention, distort the facts, and undermine my credibility and others. These attacks have attempted to distort and undermine the credibility of many truth tellers over the years. Each viewer's choice affects whether these efforts succeed or fail. And finally, the ethical imperative is inseparable from the practical necessity. Harassment campaigns thrive on inattention, emotional reactions, and uncritical thought and engagement. Audience responsibility transforms these vulnerabilities into points of strength. By acting consciously and deliberately, you deny the campaigns the resources they need to continue. Your demands for integrity reinforces standards of accountability and provides the foundation upon which continued independent ethical research can stand. Supporting the work in every available dimension is not optional, it's essential, and the stakes are tangible. There is no neutral position. Every participant in the audience has the power to either weaken or reinforce the work, to perpetuate harm or safeguard the truth and create spaces that matter. Your choice matters. Your actions are consequential, and your support is indispensable to ensuring my project's viability in the face of these coordinated attacks. As we reflect on the Delphi murders and the investigative work surrounding them, the stakes of audience responsibility become immediately tangible. The channels that have sought to mislead, harass, and discredit do so with precise intention. They understand the power of perception, the weight of visibility, and the leverage that audience attention provides. They are professionals. Every time a viewer chooses to engage with this misleading content, they contribute to the successes of these campaigns. They allow false narratives to circulate, to fragment trust, and to siphon attention away from verified research. Each decision to click, to watch, or to comment becomes part of a system that sustains abuse. As I've said, this is a professional level harassment campaign. In the context of Delphi, these actions have consequences that extend beyond the digital sphere. Misdirection and harassment can obscure facts, intimidate researchers, and erode public trust in responsible reporting. They have been largely successful over the years. They shift the focus from analysis to distraction, from evidence to speculation, from truth to rumor. In a case that demands meticulous attention, deliberate verification, and careful presentation, these disruptions are not minor. They are obstacles that threaten the very integrity and future of the work itself. To act responsibly, you must learn to recognize the mechanisms of influence. These campaigns are not haphazard, they are strategic. They operate by flooding the space with content, repeating narratives across channels, and leveraging algorithms to ensure visibility. Look at Twitter. Look at Reddit. Look at Facebook. Look at YouTube. The intention is to confuse, to provoke emotion, and to create the appearance of consensus and community. Understanding this strategy is essential. It allows viewers to engage with the content environment consciously rather than reactively or reflexively. By recognizing these patterns and seeing it for what it is, you can avoid being manipulated. Avoidance alone is not sufficient, though. True responsibility requires active engagement. Consuming and sharing the research that is rigorous, documented, and ethical reinforces the signals that platforms use to measure credibility. Look at the receipts I've provided you. The hundreds of hours of presentations, only a click away. Again, consuming and sharing research that is rigorous, documented, and ethical reinforces the signals that platforms use to measure credibility and directs attention toward content that matters and away from manipulative and harassing material. I've created hundreds of multiple-hour live streams going over every aspect of this case. Why do you not go and watch that content? Clip it, share it. These are things that you can do to help the viability of this channel and to spread the truth about Delphi. Each instance of this responsible engagement is a counterweight to the forces seeking to distort perception. When combined across a conscientious audience, such as yourselves, these actions can form a protective barrier around the integrity of the case because the audience plays a critical role in accountability. Platforms rely on reporting, documentation, and community intervention to moderate behavior. So each instance of harassment that's documented and reported weakens those campaigns. Each audience member who exercises this responsibility contributes directly to a safer and more reliable information environment. These people do it all the time as harassment and narrative control. They report our content in groups of 15 to 25 all the time in an effort to censor the content that they don't want here and that they don't agree with. How many times have you reported abusive behavior? Accountability is both preventative and corrective. It disrupts ongoing abuse and discourages future attempts. It's an essential aspect of stewardship. Support for the work itself is a crucial responsibility. Producing content that investigates sensitive topics, particularly complex criminal cases like the Delphi murders, a case the likes of which we've never seen before, requires resources. Researching documents, verifying witness statements, reviewing publicly available materials, and producing thorough analysis and content takes time, expertise, and equipment. Without substantial financial backing, none of this work can continue. It's absolutely unsustainable. Audience support is a direct enabler of the truth. This is a crowd-funded project. Financial support allows this project to maintain its independence and operate free from external pressures, upholding the standards necessary for the rigorous research that you want to see. Supporting this work is not optional, it's a necessity. The responsibility of the audience is cumulative and interconnected. Reporting and documenting abusive behavior disrupts their operation. Engaging with and sharing verified content strengthens the visibility of ethical work. Providing financial support ensures project viability. Each component alone is significant, and together they form a comprehensive strategy for success and resilience. Neglect in any area diminishes the effect, and each lapse contributes to the perpetuation of harm and the likelihood of ultimate failure. Audience responsibility, therefore, is holistic. The effectiveness of harassment campaigns is dependent upon audience complicity. Remove that complicity, replace it with deliberate support, and the campaigns will lose their influence. This is the power and responsibility of the audience to either undermine or reinforce authentic work. The choice is up to you. Participation is unavoidable. This choice is in the nature of that participation. Finally, the closing imperative is clear. The work surrounding the Delphi murders and any effort to illuminate complex and sensitive truths cannot succeed without the active, deliberate, and conscientious support of the audience. Each viewer's decisions matter. Each choice of yours carries weight. And each personal contribution, whether through action or financial support, greatly impacts the viability and sustainability of this project. My community is the backbone of resilience, and the audience is the engine that sustains it. To stand aside is to allow this harm to persist. To act responsibly is to ensure that the work not only survives, but thrives. The moral, practical, and financial responsibilities converge into a single imperative: engage consciously, support fully, and refuse to empower manipulation and harassment. Demand truth. The vision forward. This channel is not about entertainment. It's not about gossip. It's not about spectacle. This channel will not amplify lies, will not bend to the whim of the narrative steerers and the manipulators. I will not present to you information that is lazily coalesced. That is the path of others who you adore. And that is the path of irrelevance and exhaustion. Instead, I will commit to direct clarity, patience, and discipline. But I need your support. Now, for the future. Delphi will remain central because it matters and because Abby and Libby matter. Because this community deserves the truth, period. But I'll no longer limit myself to this subject solely because the community has grown too small, financial support grown too slim, and our base has truly shrunken. And to be brutally honest, this community no longer has adequately supported my work. Everything has been weakened deliberately by those who've refused to tell you the truth, who've manipulated you, and who wish to distract you from the things that truly matter. The elephant in the room. And you've allowed it. Question, Delphi. How many times are you going to let this happen in this community? I feel betrayed by too many who I thought were friends, and too many who've refused to hear the difficult truths and exactly what I've been saying. Too many have not seen what is staring them directly in the face. Because, and I know, it's too unbelievable. But I've repeatedly emphasized the exact problems encountered in this community. And I've shown you the receipts, hundreds and thousands. And too few have chosen to listen. I understand that it's difficult to conceive, that it's nearly impossible to see, that it doesn't make sense, but nevertheless, it exists. And some have refused to acknowledge because they don't want to see the truth. And they don't want this to be the truth of the reality of what we are facing with Delphi. And so I believe we're at a stalemate. So the community will change. I feel a need to broaden my content, my channel, to continue to bring you a higher truth, things that others refuse to see and to say. So things will change. Beyond Delphi, we will study politics, disinformation, news, the world, and truth and mystery itself. The very patterns of harassment we have witnessed here are not unique to Delphi. They are examples of a larger, worldwide problem with tentacles spreading in every direction, throughout politics, throughout media, and throughout the underbelly of our society as a whole. If we can learn from this revealing of these truths, we can apply those lessons widely. And so, as we move forward, I'll allow the bitter truth to guide us not only through Delphi's Pythian layers, but through the dense and confounding fog of reality itself. So let me say this clearly. This campaign is real. Everything I've said has been real. I've shown it to you. This harassment has been real. This problem is absolutely real, and it needs to be recognized. It needs to be spelled out for you. It needs to be identified. It is coordinated, and it is intended to silence me and, more importantly, you. And it is intended to fracture our group and to extinguish our light. But it has failed and will continue to fail. The stench and the fog of Delphi is thick. The echo chambers are loud. But we are still here. And as long as we carry this burden together, the tentacles of the beast will not prevail. Thank you.